I'm sitting in my studio and since it's early in the morning, I want to start the day by having some fun painting a couple of sketches into my sketchbook. Searching the web, I came across these fascinating looking animals that probably no one has ever heard of. The Dumbo Octopus and the Pangolin. Both so unique and interesting that I just have to capture them in my sketchbook. They pretty much look like real-life Pokémon. If you can learn to paint the unique shapes, surfaces, details and textures of exotic animals, you can pretty much paint anything. So it's one of the best learning tools out there for painters and it's actually a lot of fun. I use some colored pencils to draw the rough shape. With the creature that has such a simple silhouette, getting the shape right is the most important part. Once I have the proportions right, I switch over to the paintbrush and start painting the darkest areas, and I also redraw and refine the shape. The Dumbo Octopus has got to be one of the most adorable looking creatures out there. I mean, just look at him. Looks pretty much like a Pokémon. Now what I want to do is slowly work my way from the outside to the center while getting lighter and lighter. That way I can capture the glow of this amazing little creature. I just use a few colors to paint both sketches. Transparent turquoise, ivory black, ultramarine blue, transparent red oxide, yellow ochre, cadmium red and white. This is also a great opportunity to show some unique techniques and ways of starting a sketch. So I start each sketch in a different way. I use pure ultramarine blue to paint around the silhouette. This creates a real subtle glowing effect at the edges where the blue mixes with the brighter colors. Oil paint is perfect for these kinds of effects. It allows for very soft transitions. And now I want to bring out the octopus even more. I use pure black to make the background even darker. I leave a blue halo around the octopus so that it looks transparent and glowing. I finish the sketch by painting some very fine folds in the octopus skin and by painting the white reflex in the eye. Super adorable and incredibly fun to paint. Painting new things that one has never painted before has got to be one of the most enjoyable things about painting. Next up, the pangolin. This little fella is just as adorable, but with all its scales, it's much more complex. Drawing all these scales would take far too much time for my taste. So I print out a black and white version of the photo and I use it to transfer it onto my sketchbook. So I put tracing paper between the print and the sketchbook and traced the basic shapes. I'm not overly accurate with this since I will paint over most lines anyway. I just need the rough shape. Just as with the octopus, I start by painting the darkest areas first. To paint the scales, I use a little trick that makes life much easier for myself. I leave out all the light areas and only paint the dark ones. Everything that's a highlight will be the white of the paper. This way I can work much faster and be much more efficient with my brush strokes. To make the scales look good, it's important to have at least some sharp and clean edges that clearly define the shape. For that I hold my breath and draw as fine of a line as I can to indicate the shadow at the edge of the scales. Now I want to paint the larger scales that have more details. For that I'm using another technique. I'm cross-hatching with the dry brush and That not only creates a great pattern, but it also gives the illusion of detail. It's a great effect, but this kind of technique requires a lot of brush control, and that takes many years of practice. I paint the scales on the tail in a very similar way. The only difference here is that after cross-hatching, I then go on to paint the shadow side of the scales as I would normally do. Painting and creating the illusion of reality is all about creating effects. The ability to replicate surfaces, textures, and details from the real world is one of the most important parts of painting. And nothing better to practice this ability than to paint a couple of adorable and fascinating looking animals. I've listed all my materials in the description below if you feel like painting some exotic animals now yourself. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and yeah. Have a good one.